Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to this dose of celestial goodness. As always, thank you for joining me in this space and on this journey. This week, we have a very special guest. Not only did she guest author most of this week's blog, but I got to interview her, or you're watching the interview, for this week's video. Please join me in welcoming to the sacred space that is celestial goodness, the divine woo, also known as one of my favorite people, Desi. So we'll start off with what Desi calls the fool's journey, the what and why of tarot. When Desi asked me for the opportunity to be a guest blogger on celestial goodness, I knew right away what I wanted her to talk about, the tarot. Why is that, Desi? Why would I want you to talk about this topic out of all the things that you already know a lot about?
Okay. Probably because it's one of my biggest passions. And I decided I wanted to read tarot professionally. And you were the primary reason that you were my primary advocate. You were the person that pushed me forward and got me out there and supported me to doing this, even more so than myself. So I've been reading tarot professionally for several years, and I've had some fantastic moments during my readings and one or two scary moments. But overall, it's been a great learning experience and some fun for me to do that I'm, really something fun that I'm passionate about.
Yes, and you definitely are passionate about it.
Yes.
So you started this discussion by sharing how you were initially scared, as most of us are on the journey, right? To start reading professionally. Is there a reason why you wanted to start with that story?
What better way to discuss tarot than to talk about the beginnings of my own journey? Because the first card on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is the Fool's card, which is traditionally the first card of the major arcana, and the meaning of that card is a new journey. So telling you about how I began my journey by reading tarot professionally, you can see a parallel with the Fool's journey in my journey.
That's awesome and sounds really good. So that leads to my next question, which is, how did you get into tarot?
Okay, so years ago, so many years ago, I found a deck that I thought was interesting. So I purchased it and started trying to use it. I didn't know what the deck was called at the time, but I enjoyed, reading, remembering what the cards meant and learning how to use the deck. And the deck turned out to be a Lenormand deck, and that's a totally different divination system than the tarot. But one day, I decided that divination was evil, and it was going to lead me down the path of sin. So I stopped using the deck and put it away.
I have so many comments, but of all the things to lead Desi into sin, but what brought you back to tarot?
So years later, my spiritual path changed, and that's I no longer believed that divination was evil. So I started having tarot readings done for myself. And I really enjoyed the accuracy and timeliness of my readings, and I decided I wanted to see if I could learn to do readings for myself. Okay. So I purchased this basic Rider-Waite-Smith deck from Barnes & Nobles. And from
the gateway,
yes,
of course.
From the purchase of that deck, I was hooked. And when I found out that buying and reading tarot actually leads you to something, it does lead you to something, but it's not sin. It leads you to buying more tarot decks. That's what it leads you to. More and more decks.
I would ask the question, but I know it's a lot how many decks you have. So I'm just going to
No, we're not asking that question.
Instead, I'm going to ask, share with us, please, a very brief history of tarot cards.
Okay, this is going to be a brief history because it's long as well. Tarot traces back to the playing cards used in Europe in the 1400s. The first tarot decks were commissioned and hand-painted by artisans to the specifications of their patrons.
Okay.
The earliest tarot cards used for divination purposes, or cartomancy, which is actually the term that identifies using cards for divination purposes, had been traced back to 1780 in Paris, and that was the Tarot of Marseille. And it eventually was abandoned for the Tarot Nouveau around the 1900s. And there became a deck that came out in 1909, which is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and that's the deck I primarily use.
And that's one of, like, the most commonly known
The most
deck.
common used deck.
So tell us a little bit more about the Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Okay. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck consists of 78 cards. The Major Arcana consists of 22 cards. The Minor Arcana consists of the remaining 56 cards.
Okay.
The Minor Arcanas are similar to the playing cards. They're broken down into 4 suits.
Mm-hmm.
The Pentacles, Cups, Wands, and Swords. And each of these suits consists of court cards, the King, Queen, Knight, and Page. And then
there's 16 total.
16 total.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 40 numbered cards, 10 per suit.
Yes.
So it would be ace through 10,
Okay.
4 aces, 4 10s.
Mm-hmm. And
There
the
you go.
aces are very important to reading.
Yeah.
Okay. So introduce us now to the Major Arcana. These are some of my favorite cards, and depending on the deck, the artwork is usually, for all of the cards anyway, is usually very amazing.
Okay, so the Major Arcana cards are the energies that you have to deal with for your spiritual growth.
Okay.
They're major life events that will move you towards a higher spiritual connection. In contrast, the Minor Arcana cards represent a day-to-day energy of the experiences that you may have to deal with throughout your life.
Right. And doing a deeper dive into the Major Arcana, you're going to walk us through the storyline of the Major Arcana and the Fool's journey through this, through the Major Arcana anyway. So what you're going to do now is you're going to provide us with a brief explanation of the cards and how they relate to the journey.
Right. Okay, so the Major Arcana cards start with the Fool. And the Fool card is 0. And the Fool begins his journey by meeting several people. The first person he meets, the number 1 card, is the Magician. He is the master of all elements. The second person he meets is the High Priestess, and she represents deep internal divine wisdom. The third person he meets is the Empress, the Great Mother, the Divine Feminine. The fourth person he meets is the Great Father, the Emperor, and the Divine Masculine. And the fifth person he meets is the Hierophant, or the Teacher.
So all of these represent a person. And do you think that they're representative of who the Fool evolves into?
I think these are people he interacts with, but it also could be a person, what you're evolving into.
Okay.
So it just depends on where they fall within the reading.
All right. Well, please continue.
Okay. So the next card is the 6th card, and that's the Lovers, and they represent love, lovers, perfect harmony. From there he goes on, and they take him to a Chariot, which is the next card, which is number 7. And the Chariot is a card about choices, making choices. And then from there he has to use the 8th card, which is his strength, to follow through on the choice that he has made. As he moves forward, he meets the 9th card, which is the Hermit, who represents time alone for cultivating wisdom. And the Hermit, who wants to be left alone, immediately banishes him off to the 10 card, which is the Wheel of Fortune.
Not the Wheel of Fortune.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Sorry.
After spinning the wheel, the Fool meets with Justice, which is at the 11th card. And before he can move forward, Justice is karma. That's the easiest way to remember it. Justice has to determine if the Fool has any debts that he needs to fulfill before he can move forward. The Fool, of course, runs away from Justice, because who wants to deal with their own personal karma? No one. As he runs away, he runs into the 12th card, which is the Hangman. Dude's hanging upside down from a tree, okay, by one leg. Of course, he looks great. He's great. The Fool is upset. He looks at Justice. What's this about? And Justice explains that the hangman wants to see a different perspective on the 13th card, which is the death card. And the fool realizes that death is standing nearby, and he takes off running again. This time not from justice, but he's now running from death.
So the death card is one that terrifies a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But it often does not mean a physical death. Sometimes it's representative of a symbolic death or of an ending, correct?
Right, yeah. Sometimes it means, but it also sometimes means death, like a physical death.
Okay.
So you can't just presume you know that it's an ending.
Right.
It's an ending, it's a break. Either way. So as the fool runs away from death, he trips and falls at the feet of Temperance. And Temperance is an angel, and Temperance asks him, "Why are you running?" And Temperance asks the question, and the fool says, "Well, I saw death, and I don't want to meet him." And Temperance says, "Well, would you prefer to meet this guy?" Which is the card, the 15th card, the devil. And this card, the devil is tempting a couple who is attempting, who has accepted his enticement. And the fool watches as the 16th card, the tower, where all this is occurring, the devil and the two people with him, they've accepted the devil's enticement, and the tower begins to fall, and they fall with the tower. It crumbles around them, and everything goes flying to the ground. And that's the tower card.
Right. You know, that's the series of what I'd call the traditionally scary cards.
Yeah.
In the major arcana. But the tower also does represent one of the most powerful cards because it also indicates a very major change. The artwork that's shown on the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck card also shows an implication of choice. Right, does he?
Yep, it does. So, as the fool runs from the destruction, he notices that it's now night. Okay, he started this journey, it was daytime. And the stars start to come out, which is the 17th card. And as the star comes out, all of a sudden he looks up and he sees stars all over the place. He finds himself some grass near a flowing stream, and he lays down. He's like, "I'm ready to take a nap." And under the light of the 18th card, which is the moon. The moonlight is pale and beautiful. The fool is awakened from his slumber by the howling of a dog and what sounds like a wolf. Yeah, they represent the domesticated animal and the wild nature of humanity. A lobster crawls out of the stream and snaps at the fool, and he wakes up, and the fool realizes that the lobster, the dog, and the wolf were just a dream.
It was all a dream.
It is all a dream. So as he awakens, he sees the 19th card, which is the sun. And as the fool looks to the sky, he hears the most beautiful sounding horn in the west. And that is the sound of the judgment card. It's an angel who is descending from heaven, and the angel has come to awaken the dead. And as they rise, they start moving towards the angel. The angel tells the fool that this music is not for you. It is not your time. He who is not dead must keep moving. So once again, keep moving.
That is that's some life advice right there. And we are almost at the end of this journey, right?
Yeah, indeed. The fool turns and walks away from judgment, contemplating all that he has seen. And he realizes the area he's in is starting to look familiar. And then he sees the 21st card, which is the end of the journey, and the world card. The world is at the end of the path. Moving past the world card, the fool realizes he has made a complete journey. He is back where he started. He looks behind him. He sees his past. He looks forward, and he realizes the end of that journey is just the beginning of a new journey. So he's completed one, and he's beginning a new one. So he squares his shoulders and moves forward into his next journey.
And that's how it is, man. Once you end one thing, it's time to start another,
something else.
Right?
Yep.
So now, tell us about the minor arcana.
Okay. So the minor arcana consists of 4 suits representing different aspects of daily life, and they also represent the different elements. So pentacles represent the element of earth, and which corresponds with material things, which including the acquiring of things, financing, working for things, sharing, hoarding, enjoying material possessions. Swords.
Hoarding like a dragon.
Yeah. Swords represents the element of air, which refers to ideas, thoughts, communications, and the initiation of action. Mm-hmm. The wands represent fire, which corresponds with action, actual action, imagination, creativity, passion, and intuition. And then the cups represents the element of water, which is the correspondence to emotions, love, feelings, and relationships.
Right.
And each suit of the court cards are next. And so each suit has court cards, numbered cards, aces through 10. And the court cards are the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. Mm-hmm. And these represent a person in your life, or they could represent you as well. Right. And then as you move to the non-court cards in the major arcana, there are numbers on those. The non-court cards of the minor arcana has numbers on them. And these numbers have numerical correspondences. Okay. Correspondences can depend on how you're trained. Mm-hmm. So the list I'm about to give you is my interpretation of the correspondences for the numbered cards, okay? And this is a numerology point. Mm-hmm. The ace, which is 1, are going to be potential beginning. 2, wisdom and choice. 3, beliefs, foresight, heartbreak, joy. 4, compassion, stability, going within, preparing. 5, rules, strife, disagreement, discord. 6, harmony, victory, goodwill, recovery. 7, aggression, options, running away. 8, quick action, moving on, confusion. 9, defensiveness, satisfaction, worry, guilt. 10, endings, overextending, joy. Mm-hmm. And it really does depend what the number is and what this suit is to kind of determine where that's going to fall into.
So now we've learned about the major and the minor arcana. And now Desi's going to tell us about spreads.
Okay. I know y'all want to learn about how you read cards, but this is important, I swear. Okay. So the spread is how you lay your cards out to read before and interpret the cards. And there are so many spreads, so many different spreads, that there have been multiple books written about spreads. You can draw 1 card to answer a yes or no question. You can draw 3 cards, and that can be broken down into past, present, future. It can be broken down into what you want, what you need, and what you will you get what you want?
Right.
It can mean mind, body, spirit. It just depends on how you want to interpret that. You can do a 4-card spread, which can be broken down into questions, pros, cons, advice, potential, fears, hopes, outcome. And then there are many multiple card spreads for particular times of year. So new moon, full moon, new year, holidays, you name it.
Your birthday.
And then the most well-known multi-card spread, though, is the Celtic Cross. Mm-hmm. And the Celtic Cross spread consists of 10 cards placed in a specific format that have specific meanings. And so that goes from the first card that goes down is the card that represents you. The second card that crosses it is the card that's what's crossing or potential challenges. The third card above is what you're focused on. The fourth card to the right is the near future. The fifth card at the bottom is the possible outcomes. The sixth card to the left of the first card is recent past. The seventh card at the bottom, next to this little pile of cards, is the attitude, your attitude towards the situation. Mm-hmm. The eighth card what is influencing you, your ninth card, your hopes and fears, and then the 10th card, if you stay the way you're going, what's the possible outcome? And that's the Celtic cross in a very big nutshell.
And that does imply a reminder of your own free will, right?
Yeah.
That is a lot.
It is.
So how does one actually read the tarot cards?
Okay. One more thing. Just one. You can read tarot cards exclusively upright, which is how I do it, or you can read them upright and reversed. And a reversal card, which means the card is upside down. That meaning is generally a reverse of the upright meaning. As you go forward, as you can tell from what we've already spoken about, each card has a specific meaning, and when you do your reading, I ask people if they have a specific question. And if they haven't, I ask them to hold that question in their mind and think about the question while I shuffle the cards. And as I lay out the cards, we discuss what I see and what I feel. I also discuss the position of the cards, and as I read the general meaning of the cards, I also give them my intuitive understanding of what's going on. Over the years, I've read and researched and studied the meanings of each card, but I also use my intuition to really amplify the reading, and that's usually how I'm able to dig down into what's going on that I can see.
Yeah. That's also a very important point, because having studied a variety of decks, you can, even though the particular deck you're using might say one thing, you might intuitively know or glean something that's coming to you that may have appeared in another deck, like another interpretation that might be relevant to the aquarium.
Yeah.
So what is it that you'd say that you're actually doing?
Okay, so
are you being Miss Cleo, Desi?
I have her deck, by the way, just so you know. She has a whole deck. If you didn't know, she has one. If you don't know who Miss Cleo is, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Better look her up.
What I am doing, I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I am not reading the future. I am reading the energy around a situation or around a question that the person I'm reading for. I'm not predicting the future. I am interpreting the results of the cards that are laid out at that moment in time. I'm interpreting what the energies are about the question and the current path that the person is on. I am not predicting the future, because what'd you say about free will?
Yeah. People have free will.
People have free will, so they can change free will, and they can change things at any point in time. So for me to say, oh, I'm predicting the future,
and that should be a very empowering reminder for everyone, is that something can seem like it's laid out, but you can take your power back and be reminded that you do have free will.
Yep.
So, and like you said, there are planetary correspondences, chakra, and so much more.
Yeah, each tarot card, like the tarot cards, there's so many correspondence, like she said, between chakras, astrology, plants, you name it, herbs, animals. There are so many correspondence that can be incorporated into a tarot reading. It's just, what is your level of interest, and where do you want to focus your energy on?
And we didn't even get into oracle cards, which you pair with your tarot reading.
I do. I usually find an oracle deck, which is a deck that has more broad meanings than tarot, and people have different views on things, and so I find tarot decks, or oracle decks, that I think complement the tarot decks, and I let people pick their own tarot deck, and I let them pick their own oracle deck, which goes back to, how you see what kind of card comes out. A good example is the tower card. I have a deck where the tower card is it looks like the person who the tower is falling,
Right.
but the person in the image.
On the traditional tower deck, there are two people falling out of the tower.
Right.
That's being struck by lightning.
Right.
And one of the people is kind of free falling, like you think they're probably going to land on their back.
Mm-hmm.
The other person looks like they jumped out of the tower willingly because they recognize the situation and they're like, I'm just going to
they
go with the flow.
I'm done. Right. I can't deal. I'm just
and in this deck that Desi has,
the tower card, she looks like she did it. She got
she looks like she broke apart the tower herself.
She was like, I'm going to do this myself. And if somebody picks that deck and they get the tower card, that's the way I interpret it. I interpreted that whatever this is that's coming to an end.
Sometimes it's like you've demolished something.
Yeah, you ended something. Ended something.
You need a new start, or you need to rebirth yourself, or something.
And that's the one thing about the tower card. Even when whether you created the tower moment or the tower moment was inflicted on you, there is still free will on how you perceive that moment and how you move out of that moment. Mm-hmm. So free will is very much involved in all of that as we move forward through life. Mm-hmm. So that's really the big thing about the tarot and the tower and the different interpretations
and
of the cards.
And it is a very big topic, as you can see.
Topic, yes.
And I definitely appreciate all of the information that you've given to us today. Mm-hmm. You know, you've told us how exciting it is. You've told us what it is and what it isn't, and how we can use it, you know, to see where we're standing in the here and now.
Yeah.
So, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
They can email me at divinewoo111@gmail.com, or they can visit me at my Etsy shop, The Divine Woo Boutique, and I have tarot readings available there. But if you want something specific, you can call me and we can discuss it. And I'll let you know how to get in contact with me by phone.
And she does events around the area, so if you're in this area and you feel like you come across her table, please check it out and support her.
And say hi. tell me you saw this, and I'll make sure I let her know that.
And there you have it, everyone. A glimpse into the life of a professional tarot reader. So thank you so much to the Divine Woo for being here with us and for sharing her knowledge. As we said before, it's a huge topic. And if you're interested, consider getting a reading or consider getting a deck and familiarizing yourself with it.
Just remember what it leads to.
More decks. The artwork within the decks are also amazing, contain so much symbolism and so much meaning. And there's also tons of like theme decks. Yeah. Desi, I know, has a James Bond deck. There's a Godfather deck, the Miss Cleo deck. Yeah. It goes on and on.
Golden Girls.
Golden Girls.
There's a Britney Spears Oracle deck. I was like, okay. Okay.
So all kinds of cool stuff. And I do think that this conversation highlights an important point. Life is a constant journey. It's filled with endings and beginnings. However, and we talked about that last time, we do have tools and we have resources to help us. And also, if you were, waiting for a sign to begin something that you're interested in.
Exactly.
I can nag you about it for sure. But this is your sign. You got this. You can do it.
Exactly.
And may the stars shine so brightly over your week. And may it be an absolutely beautiful week indeed.
Indeed.